Hi, it's Rachel. So I was talking in my last video about how at the core, in the eye of our soul, a lot of us have held the lie of where feel like we have a lack of value, okay, a lack of worth, that we were rejected or we can be rejected, okay? Or we may not be worthy. We've developed all this value by the world's ways, but there's always that sense that we're not quite completed. Okay, so again, people feel that in different degrees and it manifests in numerous ways. But when you get down to the core, that's what it is. So when you start seeking for this divine love, what happens, okay, because those lies are so ingrained that all your thoughts, your habits, your words, your lifestyle, your choices have all flown out of those to some degree. So when you start moving and having that communion with God, and that's why I mentioned it earlier about how you have to meet him in your soul. Once you start doing that, he starts taking that soul substance around you and he starts changing it. He starts basically replacing the lies with truth. And that causes a lot of lifestyle changes, a lot of changes in your behavior, changes how you think, because it's your very soul that's changing. Okay, so you have all this stuff that's going on, but what holds on is the root. The root, okay, that sticks you into this world of fear, into a place of bondage, are those root lies of rejection and insignificance, lack of value. Instead of really believing that you are never rejected because you are highly valuable, you are very, very precious. Every single person is. And when you start realizing your own significance and value, you realize that everybody is. Everybody is. It's just that those lies have manifested so that people act in all these ways showing that they don't have that. But it's a lie. Because the truth is that love of the Father has always been there and it always has been there. But again, we're experiencing this earth realm to see the contrast that God may be forever individualized to us in a very intimate relationship, because we've seen the contrast between light and dark. We recognize the light. We see what it is. We understand its characteristics and we want to be a part of it. So when you start growing, okay, and developing spiritually, you're having your soul developed and you're changing and you see that reflected in your life. That's the fruit of a changing soul, you respond differently. What happens is it starts squeezing in on that hole, that very core, to where eventually you go through a period where you are battling within yourself. Our only enemy is ourself. That's the only enemy we have. And it's those lies, okay? Because that creates a whole ripple effect of every problem that you see in this world. So when you get into that place of now that divine love starting to penetrate those lies, what happens is it starts really showing itself for what it is, and you start experiencing these waves of, you feel the intensity of that rejection, of that insignificance, but right behind it is the love, okay? Because your soul has been developed in the truths and the understanding, so that you're having a lot of faith in a very real substance because of what you're experiencing within you. And you know that that's true, and you know the lies aren't. But they are so deeply rooted that it's very hard to extract them, because they've been the foundation of every thought we've had since we've been born. So what happens is you go through this time period, and it's different for everybody. And I want to share this because some of you may be going through this, and hopefully this will shed some light on what's happening. So you go through this wave of feeling a great rejection. But if you've had that love, then it's there to kind of battle that. Okay? It's a battle within your soul. And that's what it feels like. And so when you're feeling all those emotions, imagine, when you get to that point, like something happens in your life and you just feel, greatly dishonored by other people, or things aren't going right, or you feel like nothing's working out for you. It may create those senses of you're being rejected, or you're not significant, or you don't matter. Okay, those are going to bubble up very strong, but it's only so you can see it for what it is. And when you have the love there next to it, what it does is that love starts to consume that lie, but it has to be fully exposed in our awareness, because most of us operate in these lies without a conscious awareness. It's like what's governing us at the subatomic level, and it is that deep because it's affecting the energy that's within our vessel, and that we're emanating to other people. So what's happening is that it's like two energies are colliding, two waves. Okay, this wave of fear and rejection and insignificance and no value, and this wave of this divine love of God. And what happens is that love ends up consuming that. And this is happening within the eye of your soul. It's like the eye of the storm. But when you go through that and you stand solid on the rock of the truths, because they're absolute truths, they're not relative truths, they're absolute truths. When you're standing on that rock, then your faith in your soul that's been crafted by these is so strong in that storm that it remains standing. If your house is built on the sand, your soul and faith is built on lies and fear. In the face of fear, it's not going to be able to, you'll be consumed in it. Okay? And so that just means that you won't be able to receive that inflow of that divine love, because the fears they would have won, because you didn't have your soul developed enough to, and so your house on the rock, to be able to defeat that battle. Okay? So, but that's why it's so important to be desiring for your soul to be developed in the ways of love and loving kindness and harmony and peace and the wisdom in the ways of God, so that you can overcome in this battle. Okay, that faith will be your victory in that soul substance that's been formed, so that that I that's been governing you, that root, is rooted out, and that hole is no longer there. But all that you are is filled with that love of God, because once it's there, it emanates. So it's already been coming in your soul, but now it's going to come into your soul, that divine love, in a very, very powerful way, in a consuming way. That's just absolutely amazing. It's like a life-giving, just incredible moment. Okay, but it's a progression. But this is what's happening at the soul, very deep level, at the foundations of the earth. This is what is going to, when this starts happening among people and working in them, which it is on a large scale, is going to absolutely change this earth, because it's changing the very foundations of this earth. Totally turning them upside down. So that instead of fear governing, love is going to start governing, because if love is coming out of your soul, that's the energy, that is what you're doing. So that is a very intense battle, and it can be, but if you have been developed, your faith will be the victory, because you will overcome that, because that is the sense of death. When you have rejection and fear, that's also like, that feels like death to you. And when people get really lost in it, that's actually what they do. They kill themselves, because they have no hope, because those things are so strong that they win the battle. Okay, but the thing is that your soul is in the condition that it's in, and when you die, it doesn't change. So now you have to go through still growth, no matter where you're at, whether you're in this plane or some other plane, this reality, some other reality. Your soul is your soul. So to start growing in your soul now is very important and very worthwhile, and there's nothing more worthwhile, okay? Because it always stays with you. So, okay, so let me talk about one other aspect here. So this assimilating of this divine love, that battle, the eye of the storm and the eye of the soul, is a very significant something that you go through, and it feels like a new birth. Because it's interesting, because you feel it at a low level, because remember, it's been so buried. Most people aren't even aware of these lies very clearly, because it's been so buried under so many things. But as you start to come forth in your soul development, they start getting exposed. It's like, just as you start, as a woman starts to have a child, get pregnant, she starts becoming more exposed. So you start changing physically, literally. You're reflecting that something is going on inside of you. Okay, so your life starts changing, your lifestyle starts changing, because something is happening inside of you. But when you come into that, the birth part, that's what it is. It's happening in the eye of the soul, where that divine love is entering in. That's where the love comes through. That's where which is the life. It's eternal life. And when it fills that spot, that's why I said it has to show you the lie. It shows you all the emotion of what you've been living by and how that's been governing your life, and it's very blatant. That's why it can be very strong, but it comes in sequences often. This has been my experience. So it's like you see a little bit of the insignificance in that love is there, but then the next one is a little bit harder. It's like the spiritual battles get a little bit more intense until you kind of hit that final one where you have so much of that soul substance of what God has developed in that love, that He prepares you. I mean, He's such a loving Father. He prepares you for this great battle, okay? Because when it gets intense like that, you have the love there to be able to defeat it. He is there preparing us if we will just listen, if we will give heed to Him, if we will take time to commune with Him and spend that time with Him. That I talked about, and I discussed a little bit of that process in my videos, connecting 1, 2, 3, connected, if you want to look at those. But that part of having kind of a succession of these realizations of that fear, of those lies in the face of that love, because you see that they're unreal. Because that love has become more real to you. Your faith, your understanding, your belief in that love of God for you has become so much stronger than that fear, even though you feel it very powerfully, because you're just sensing how powerful it has been in your life. And there comes the point where it's the final push. And what you're having to do with your faith is push that love of God into that lie. And when it's the final one, new life comes forth, new birth, a new soul. You have been born again, in a sense. You've had one physical birth, but now you're having a new birth. And it's a new birth of a new soul that is knit in the divinity of God, that is absolutely powerful and beautiful, because you will always be growing for eternity ever deeper into His love and into His truth. And it really is all about love. It really is all that simple. So let me share one more aspect of this, is that divine love is the love of God. And His love, it loves, okay? It flows outward. So for you to start growing in the divine love, you are going to start loving others. The only way that you can grow in that love is when you start loving others in the way that truth, the absolute truth, instructs you. Because we're just a channel of that love. Because this love is beyond us. It's a love that is far beyond natural love. It is the love of God. It is the love of divinity. It is all-knowing, okay? That's why our perceptions get so enhanced in a situation, because we're perceiving basically with eyes of God, which are all knowing. But we just receive what we need in that little moment for that little action. Okay, so we're not God, but we're partakers of his nature as it flows through us because we've created a channel. The only way you can create a channel is if you let that love flow outward to others. That's why it is so important to be learning, how do I love others truly, with sincerity, in all truth, in all honesty, treating others as I would want to be treated, because it's like that love starts, because that's what allows that love to come through you. And it is also what happens is you start loving others, okay? That's also what pushes that love through that fear of that rejection, and that fear of insignificance, that fear that you don't have any value or that you're not worthy, because all those are lies. Okay, so when you are loving outward, it's like pulling that love of God into you, because you're allowing it to go outward, and it can push through those lies to where they dissolve, because they're just lies, they're not even real, so they dissolve. But it's the outflow that is very important, not just the inflow. So when you're seeking for the love of God and understanding the love of God and desiring that, it has to be an inflow and outflow. Inflow and outflow. Because if it doesn't have that rhythm, if it doesn't have that journey, if you only want it just, you want the love of God, you want to feel that love of God, you want to feel the comfort and the peace and all those beautiful, wonderful things, that's wonderful. If you want to feel that, start giving it to others, because that's how you attain it. It's like we create like a vacuum. We start drawing God's love into us because we have the right channel, because we're coming in harmony with his ways. That's why it's so important to walk in his truths, and that's why this divine love creates a lot of truth in your life and a lot of wisdom that far exceeds any truth and wisdom that you can have by just your mere intellectual abilities alone without the divine love. Okay, because that divine love is bringing with it the divine truth, the divine wisdom. It all works together. Okay, you can't separate any of it. So that's why when you start getting this inflow, your soul perceptions of how to respond in situations, what to do, gets extremely perfected. Okay, because you are coming and being connected to the source of truth and wisdom that's everlasting and absolute. So the very important part of attaining the love of God is to understand the flow of love. And the flow is an inward from God in through your soul that comes out with a deep care and concern that is true and real for others, for all of creation. The desire is to create harmony, and love is the creative force of harmony. So when that love starts pouring out, that's what it starts creating in your life. Powerful.